Hello, welcome to a Monster Train 2 tier list video, the first of many, I'm sure. As always, I want to give you a little disclaimer here. The tier listing is fake. I don't believe in tier listing, but it's good for the analytics. This is just a way for me to talk to you about strategy and do it in a way that YouTube algorithming likes. So just understand that a pure and true tier list of almost every game is one tier that says it's good in the correct circumstances, haha. So just be aware of that. But I do think there is a lot of variance between the Pyre hearts, so it is fun to talk about. And I can talk about their strengths and weaknesses and all of that. You'll notice here, though, if you look closely, I've organized these by Pyre HP. Pyre HP is the most important thing about every Pyre heart. It is extremely, extremely important because the Titans force you to take damage, and a lot of fights in 7 and 8 force you to take damage as well. Specifically those Griffin Riders that just fly around and hit you for 5. Some runs are forced to take damage, and if you're losing 30 HP going into the Titans, sometimes your run will become unwinnable even if it's really strong. So HP is very important. Make sure you're aware of that. Next thing I want to say, if you've never watched me talk about cards or a tier list before, this tier list is from the perspective of trying to win every run. I don't care that sometimes when you pick your Pyre of Savagery, you always hit a sweeper, and that makes your run really easy. We're not talking about that. We're talking about what happens in the bad cases too. Don't forget that if you want to improve at these games, you have to realize that there is an average to every case, you know? There's a bad to go with every good. And if the bad is, oh, I take a little damage, that's different than the bad is, oh, I just lose the game because I don't have the HP to tank this bad hit. Because you can recover going down to 1 Pyre HP, but you can't recover going down to 0. In the early game, anyway. In the late game, you kind of can't. Last thing, I need to make sure I tell you, this is from the perspective of playing random, or rotating random, basically randoming the Pyre heart, which I think is important to note because some of these Pyres are a lot better if you pick them in good circumstances for them. Specifically, I think this Pyre is a lot better, and if you don't know what these are, you know, this Pyre also gets that marker, and we'll talk about them when we get there. Okay, 4 tiers here, very good, pretty good, not great, and eek. I think that they're fairly self-explanatory. Very good, pretty good, not great, not great. Eek is, oh no, I started with this thing. There's only one Pyre in that tier. Let's get to it. So, I know what I just said about Pyre HP. This is a Pyre of Entropy, and I will edit in what these Pyres do, by the way. Pyre of Entropy, despite having the highest HP in the game, goes in the pretty good tier, because this thing is fake. It doesn't actually have the highest HP in the game. It loads you up with curses, and in the end game, you will need to let those curses hit you. You're going to be taking like 5 to 10 HP per fight from the curses. The curses, of course, being the Vengeful Shards, which do 1 when you don't play them. The effect is, at the end of a fight, you get a Vengeful Shard, but you draw +1 for every 2 Blights in your deck. So this thing starts you out at 6 draw, and you end at 10 draw very quickly. Now, the problem with this is that you're drawing more Blights. You'll have 12 Blights in your deck. Hold on, how many are there? 10? 11 Blights at the Titans, 10 at Seraph, 9, 8, yeah. Okay, so the main issue that you'll face with this is that having all of this draw forces you to take a bunch of damage because you have to play your cards out. And this Pyre kind of forces you to just click at every card draft. You kind of have to put all of the cards in your deck to mitigate the number of curses you're going to draw. And this leads you down a path where you can't really, force 1 or 2 good cards because you'll just take a bunch of damage while you're drawing nothing. So you end up having to take a bunch of mediocre cards, which is fine. And you'll have the extra HP to buffer the damage that you take from this. But ultimately, I think that this Pyre's trade-off isn't that good. You do get to take double energy or energy space. You never have to take draw, but I'm not taking draw very often anyway. I think a lot of times you're just picking 1 or 2 units that you scale and making your whole deck scale them, so the whole draw +1 doesn't matter a lot. But the good news is this Pyre has a really hard time bottom decking because you're drawing 10 per turn. If your deck is 40 cards and you have 1 specific card you need, even if it's the bottom card in your deck, that's 4 turns, which is, you know, not great, but it's not terrible. This thing also synergizes insanely with Dante. He just gets a bunch of free attack and completely nullifies all the damage you take, and Dante is very good, but Dante's always very good, so it's kind of meaningless to talk about. The big value upside of this Pyre is you won't die in the early game from it, and that's really good. I think the biggest killer right now is just dying in fight 1 or fight 2, or not dying, but taking a bunch of damage in fight 1 or fight 2. not being able to grab the collector, and then having no money to buff up and dying to Archeon. I feel like that is the big killer of a lot of runs. Okay, next up is Fire's Greed. I think Fire's Greed is it's the strongest Pyre in the game, in my opinion. Highest HP, not counting Entropy, and a good effect. All you do with this thing, this is when you take damage, gain 10 gold, by the way. All you do with this thing is never play out Vengeful Shards for the first like 5 combats, and it makes you 200 to 300 gold. And extra gold early is very strong. It lets you establish your game plan and not die early. You just get to throw plus stats on Trained Stewards. You get to throw good upgrades on whatever your starting units are, and it makes you a lot less likely to die because you even get to roll the shop to fish for good upgrades, which is great. So, yeah, this thing's really good. I don't think I need to say anything else. This is Protoart Cage. This is just the do-nothing Pyre. 45 attack, 80 HP. Extremely good. Having 80 HP is great. I think Pyre effects are relatively fake. We don't have to care that much about them. Yeah, I think this thing's extremely good. And I need to reiterate, by the way, this is from the perspective of randoming, because randoming sometimes you will get an effect that is completely useless. So this Pyre Heart, as a result, just has higher starting stats, which is good. I don't think I have anything else I want to tell you about this. It's just, I mean, there's nothing to say, you know. High HP is good. This has the highest HP in the game. I think the one with the effect is a little better because losing 10 attack for infinite money is a good trade. This is Life Mother's Pyre. This is at steel shops, magic shops, and trinket shops, I believe are the 3. You can duplicate a card in your deck. This thing is very good as well, mostly because of the HP, of course. I think the effect is not like run defining. And when Cranberry made this video, he said that some people told him that this Pyre is win more. Respectfully, that opinion seems very wrong to me. I don't really understand why it's bad to get more cards that are good. You upgrade a card twice and make it very strong, and then you duplicate it. And duplicating it is a little better than removing cards in terms of getting it for consistency. So pick a card that synergizes with your run, maybe like a Valor card in the Banished, or even just mix and default Lazarus. You could do a duplicate on an armor card in Hellhorn, anything like that, right? You take that card, you give it 2 really high quality upgrades, and then you just make like 5-6 copies of it. This thing's really good with rare cards that are strong. Lazarus Book comes to mind, the 50 unstable, 1 reanimate. Getting as many of that as you can in your deck is very good. But yeah, in the worst case, this thing still has good stats, and so I think that even in the worst cases, you're fine, and sometimes the effect is excellent. Like really, really good. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this. This is Echo the Time Father. I remember that name. This one is when you click it once per fight, you freeze all cards in your hand. And, not all cards, sorry, all non-blights. You can't freeze Vengeful Shards, and you can't freeze Curses, and you can't freeze Calcified Embers. So, not bad, I think. I think you could change this to say freezes Calcified Embers and it would be net positive for the most part, but having a weird one-off exception would be annoying, so I understand why it doesn't. This thing's also very good. I actually think I accidentally organized this tier list with the 4 really good Pyres at the top, but also there are the 4 highest HP Pyres, so whatever. By the way, spoilers, I don't think there's another Pyre in the very good tier. Sorry, I shouldn't have spoiled that for you, but this is the end. This is my pantheon. I'll tell you, I think that this Pyre is a lot better than I initially had expected. I thought freezing my whole hand was kind of useless, but it's actually better in bad runs than it is in good runs. I thought, like, when I was having good runs, I was like, oh, this Pyre is completely meaningless. I don't ever need the freeze. When you're having bad runs, this Pyre lets you freeze a specific card you need to win the boss fight. It lets you freeze like a stealth. It lets you freeze a... Well, silence is already frozen. It lets you freeze like a stealth or a prismal dust or a... what else is like important big ticket? Like a reform for a little fade. Or yeah, damage shield card from Banished. Or a specific like a double Pyre gel or a double armor card. It lets you freeze some specific card that you need to play at the boss start in order to kill the boss, and then you just always kill the boss with the card you need to draw. It removes a lot of variance, basically, and I think that's really good. So, I think this Pyre is really good. It has good base stats as well. Extremely fine. This is, I actually had to re-record this video because I got this Pyre wrong. This is Wings Radiance. This is not a Quath's whatever the fuck it's called. I should have opened the game and just read what the Pyres were called. Oh well, too late now. This is at this once per fight, you get to click this to heal the front unit on each floor. This Pyre has good stats, but the effect is kind of meaningless, so I put this in like the pretty good. It can go in either tier. I think a lot of these Pyres can flip between these two tiers. I think Dominion Pyre, or not Dominion, this is Entropy Pyre. This is very solidly in the pretty good tier, but I think that this Wings Radiance Pyre could go in either tier. I'll put it up here, but yeah. The problem with this effect is that healing your characters once per turn in the end game, not once per turn, once per fight, healing your frontline in the end game is completely meaningless. Because if you're not sustainable enough to go forever, this Pyre is not going to change anything. Waves are going to start walking by you. So I really think this thing is kind of whatever. However, in the early game, with certain clan combos, it's good. Soulguard loves this thing. Penumbra loves this thing. Big, meaty champions who just struggle to live, I think, are a lot stronger with this. Soulguard is the big one. Cold Channel Soulguard loves this thing. The Awoken Sentient doesn't hate this, and so does Wendleton. A lot of the Exile or a lot of the Monster Train 1 champions like this thing, really. But yeah, in the end game though, this Pyre's effect is almost always going to be meaningless. You either solved your survivability or died in fight 7, most likely. So, just pretty good, because the effect is not as good as the other Pyres. But, decent stats. Now, Bogworm, I think this Pyre goes in the not great tier. Mostly, again, this one could go in either tier. If you prefer it, by all means. This is, at the end of a combat, you gain 1 space permanently. The problem with 1 space permanently is that it's randomly placed, and 1 space on each floor doesn't really matter. Some runs don't care about extra space at all. And for the most part, this Pyre is going to take a while to give you enough space to play an extra unit on your floor. Sometimes you're playing 2-2-2 as 3 2-space units, and this can get you there a lot quicker, but you don't really need that, you know? You don't need to play 2-2-2 until the end game. And for the most part, I would rather just pick a space upgrade. Like, I'm really getting +1 draw for this. I would probably never pick this Pyre, basically. I think it's okay for some clans that really need space, but the random nature of it means that you could just go 4 space middle floor, 1 space top floor, 3 space bottom floor, which could be good for you, but it also could be bad. There's basically too much uncertainty on the space to really rank this thing as consistently good, but it's not terrible. Like, it's not a game-losing Pyre. I think you will win most runs, and it'll be independent of this Pyre. The reason it drops down below Wings Radiance is because it has 10 less attack, so early game you might be eating an extra hit or two, which could snowball against you. But for the most part, you're not dying to leaking enemies, you're dying to a boss running you over named Archeon, or I've died a lot to bosses in the 4th ring too. But this Pyre doesn't really help or hurt you in that regard. Oh god, it's Pyro Dominion. I think honestly this Pyre needs to go into like its own tier. Here, let me make its own tier. Add a row above. I didn't think about this when I made this originally. The superposition. Like, this is like all tiers. And that's Dominion Pyre. So I'll put it at the bottom here. All tiers. And let me, I gotta change the color, you know how it is. Pyre of Dominion is like, this is at the start of the run, you clear your whole deck, and then you draft 4 cards, which you get 2 copies of each card, and that's your new starting deck. 30 attack, 65 HP. So HP is fine. Attack is fine. I think 35 is fine, and 65 is like the cutoff. 70 is the cutoff, quote unquote. 65 is where I've lost enough HP that I'm a little unhappy with the Pyre. So at 70, it's like, oh, it's fine. And another thing about Pyre HP I should mention is that your Pyre HP increases by percentages. So higher starting Pyre HP gets more HP over the run than these other Pyres, right? I think it's like 15% from the boss upgrades. I'm not certain of that though. But higher starting HP gets more HP. So when you're poor, you stay poorer, effectively. But yeah, Pyre Dominion is, I think, really good in most cases because your deck starts out so small and you get to pick high priority cards. However, I think Pyro Dominion is the reason that this game will not be pure 100% win streakable, because it turns a few champions completely useless. Shardtail Queen, oh god, no Implings in Shardtail Queen. Hope you got Imparade, buddy. The real one that I think is very bad is Baron Grail. Baron Grail needs his equipment, guys, for his whole game plan to work. All 3 of his paths require them, and he just loses those. You can maybe draft for it, but sometimes you won't be able to draft out the weakness, and you will just die in fight 1 or fight 2 because your champion is completely useless. So that is the big Pyro Dominion problem. I think Baron Grail is out there, and it's like, 1 in 20. Some other champions are made a lot worse by this. I think Little Fade, if you don't get Quick Endless, is really bad here. Who else? Umbra probably doesn't like this very much, but Umbra doesn't like anything. And Umbra has enough morsel cards that you probably don't actually care about this. So I take that one back. Who else? I'm just going through them all in my head now. Awoken, kind of. Actually, default Awoken, kind of, yeah, because you want to play a Hollow. Oh, Fel would hate this thing. Yeah, Fel would not be happy about this. Default banished. So yeah, I think there are enough, but like the real big one is I think Baron Grail can maybe just lose fight 1 if you start this thing, which is pretty uncommon. It's like a 1 in 20 that you hit it with the Dominion Pyre, but yeah. I think it ranges from probably pretty good all the way down to like below the worst tier, so I'll put it in its own special tier. Okay, this is Hersels Horde. This is at the start of deployment phase, you gain 4 extra Ember, and deployable upgrades are 50% less. I'll put this pretty good. I have to stop myself from just slamming it in the very good tier, because I think the lower HP does matter. But yeah, I actually think this Pyre is very, very good. I don't know, it's close. I think you could put it up there. Like, I'm maybe going to come around eventually and go, well, the Pyre, minus 5 HP. If it's 70 is fine, so 65 is fine, right? But, I don't know. You could put it in either tier. I really, really like being able to start the game with a deployable equipment, a deployable room, and like 5 or 6 good units, and I think that this Pyre lets you do that without having to take energy. However, in most runs, you do end up taking energy anyway, so a lot of times this Pyre is overkill, and I need to remember that too, because even though it's been really fun for me all the time, sometimes this Pyre's effect is completely meaningless. Like, if you're not caring about weapons, or if you didn't get any good rooms, this thing is doing very little. However, you can basically pick every banner unit with this without any fear, and you can just always play them and they don't bog your drawdown. So that's cool too. You never have to skip a banner unit, even though it feels kind of weird to not skip banner units if they're bad. Any amount of value is better than no value at all, and this Pyre lets you always play out all your units. So that's cool. And you get to make these like big expensive merged equipments and make them deployable and put them on your guy and go, wow, look at that. 6 cost equipment? Sheesh. I think that's pretty fun. But yeah, the lower HP and the fact that sometimes this Pyre is meaningless is like, yeah, it gets carried out of bottom tier by its effect. All right, this is a Quath's, I don't know. It's a Quath's Pyre. I'm just going to call it that. This is, once per fight, you can click it to gain 3 energy. And so, that's it, actually. That's all there is to say about it. 35 attack, 65 HP. Oh my god, and the bottom got cut off when I added the new tier. This video is a disaster. It's over for me, man. Glad I looked over. And it's just when I added the new tier, so it wasn't too long. Anyway, this is fine, but not really that great. Lower starting HP than the other Pyres, so I'm not happy about it. But it's not in the danger zone, so it's not really bad. 65 HP is pretty low, though. And like compared to 80 and 70, 65 isn't great. And as a result, I think that this Pyre is not great. The reason that this isn't that good is because much like the healing Pyre we talked about, where you have to have a solution, you can't really use this to go, oh, well, I have this one big ticket card I need to play, because the problem is you will have to play it again, most likely. I mean, some cards are big ticket consumes, and that's fine, but I don't really feel like this Pyre enables you to go plus draw. I think that this Pyre still requires you to take energy, and you can't use it in the deployment phase, right? You can't press this in the deployment phase to give yourself 3 energy to give yourself extra starting value, because presumably because that just overlaps with Hersels Horde for one. It would just be a worse version of Hersels Horde in that case, but with flexibility in the other rounds, so not necessarily worse, but you get what I mean. But mostly, I think the problem with this thing is that if you're not already able to play all your cards, this thing isn't really going to help you because you'll get it once, and that has to be enough because then it's useless for the rest of the fight. It's not that good. Mostly what this is for is playing out a big room, like a Room of Silence or an Inferno room. You hit this and then you go with that. Or you play it out to like juice an X cost card. And I think those are fine. Like +3 on Prismal Dust is cool, +3 on the melee weakness card, the rare from Banished, which I don't remember the name of. I think it's called Wings Radiance, maybe. Those are fine. I don't hate those. But for the most part, I would rather have my rooms deployable, and +3 on the X cost isn't really saving this thing from my wrath. So it goes not great. But again, as I said at the start of the video, if you're really mad about this, just remember that a true tier list of this is just going to be every Pyre in the same tier with it's good. Kind of. You can win, probably. But yeah, this is Malika's Shifting Pyre. This is all of your cards start with a random upgrade in them. And I think this Pyre is pretty good. It's lower on HP for sure. 60 is not great, but a free upgrade on all of your spells is really cool, and I think it will often lead to you hitting something very crazy. A lot of people that don't like this Pyre, the detractors, will say, oh, but what about my unit upgrades, right? My units get noticeably weaker from this thing. I don't think it's really true. I think a lot of times I don't even care about unit upgrades. You're picking so many units in a run nowadays that if one of the upgrades isn't that good, it's still fine. I've had a lot of runs where I have to just pick like a +14 or a Valor 8 on a starting unit that ends up being a main part of my plan, but you have to take that to survive fight 2, right? So as a result, I don't think this Pyre is much worse. The lower HP is sad, but you get a lot of early power, and you can just get a spell that starts with Remove Consume, which then guarantees you Remove Consume -2 on it, which is very good, among other things, just for an example. I think random upgrades are generally an increase in power level. However, I do not think you should pick Capricious Reflection with this. Absolutely do not pick Capricious Reflection with this. 2 random upgrades is going to brick your run, because you need at least 1 good upgrade on your carry. But upgrades aren't as important as they used to be because you get value from rooms and you get value from equipment now. So it's not that big of a deal to lose 1 upgrade slot, in my opinion. Okay. I made a separate tier for this Pyre. This is Heart of the Pact. This is when you play a card from each of your clans, so from your default and your banished clan, or your default and your exile clan, draw +1 next turn. This thing has no HP. It's so ugly. You end the game at like 79 or something like that. It's really bad. I'm pretty sure you end the game on this Pyre at lower HP than you start on the other Pyres. So if your run is even moderately bad, this thing is just like, you walk into Seraph, you take 30 damage, and suddenly you don't have the HP to finish the Titan fight. And 30 damage is not an insane amount to take versus Savagery Seraph. The +1 draw next turn is okay, but a lot of times your runs will be very heavy on one side or the other. So you're not even getting +1 draw per turn. And the trade-off is sometimes if your run isn't like super overpowered flawless, if your run is just pretty good, you walk into Seraph and you lose enough HP that you just can't finish the run. And that feels really bad. It's like one backliner walks by you or one heavy walks by you and your run crumbles into dust. And it's so depressing. I think this Pyre also has no HP in the early game and you start damaged, so sometimes I have had starts where I take 50 damage from the first boss because the start is really bad. This Pyre loses the game there. This thing's awful. It's so incredibly bad because it's weak early. You have to play super conservatively, so you don't get to snowball on money on trials, you don't get to get upgrades. And then it's weak late because if you have a bad Seraph fight, you just lose the game. I hate this Pyre. I would never pick it. I would actually never pick it. It's the landmine in random, in my opinion. This is the thing you're trying to not step on. I do feel like if you gave it 5 HP, it would probably be better. I haven't had this problem with Malika's Pyre, by the way, which only has 5 HP more. Primarily because Malika's Pyre gives you so much value at a baseline, right? You're getting so much value from the upgrades that you can lose a little value in the early game. Because you're getting, every card draft, you're getting like a 25 to 100 gold upgrade for free, which is a lot of value in terms of money. So, yeah. That's the difference, because 5 HP doesn't sound like a lot, but this thing can just lose the game before it generates you any meaningful value. +1 draw is meaningless at the start of the run before you have any meaningful cards to play. And I hate it, and it's stinky. The end. This is Pyro Savagery. This Pyre is really fun. This is Slay +1 attack permanently on a unit. All of your units have this effect. If you are always picking your Pyres, like if you never random and you always pick your Pyre, this thing probably goes in pretty good. If you have perfect information and you're always picking your Pyres, this goes up here. Reality, for me, because I'm playing random, this thing is not great. So here's the deal. If you are picking your Pyres and you are playing a clan with a sweeper, Stygian, Luna, Lazarus League, or Awoken, you click this Pyre. Because if you put quick on a sweeper with this Pyre, you will almost always win the run. It's free scaling, you'll end the run. I did it recently with Cold Kalia. I got quick in the first shop. It was a pretty decent run. She ended at a base attack of like 150. +1 multi-strike, suddenly 300 damage sweep without doing anything. I have invested no resources. I have 300 damage just baseline and it's sweep. So I'm more than halfway to clearing every wave. That's really good. However, if you don't get a sweeper, I think this Pyre is a lot worse because 50 HP is awful. It's like if you have a bad fight 1, you lose the game type bad. If you aren't killing the first blessed boss, the rage boss in the first fight, if you don't guaranteed kill him, he will just end you. So there's a little bit of bad to go with the very good. And as a result, I think it drops down to not great from a random perspective. If you're picking your Pyres, I think this thing's pretty good though. Same opinion about Pyro Dominion, by the way. If you are picking your Pyres, I think this thing is probably really good. But because I am not, sometimes it's just gonna blow your run up for sure. So keep that in mind. I just want to reiterate that this is from the perspective of randoming. But yeah. Anything else I want to say about this? Not really. It's a really straightforward Pyre. You play it with a sweeper, it's really good. If you don't, you need to scale up fast enough that they can clear the whole wave, which is kind of hard. You want to pick up trample, you want to pick up like just extra multi-strikes. But for the most part, just play it with a sweeper. Play it with a quick sweeper. Put it on Tethys, man. Turn Tethys into God. But not actually because you want to get multi-strike. Yeah, I think that's it. My Pyre tier list looks like a flag. Kind of. Or something. I don't know. I'm doing a Rorschach test on myself. Realistically, it would be more like this if it was a flag, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Sorry, I don't know what the hell just came over me. This is just my opinion, man. If you're picking your Pyres, everything is different. If you're always getting them in a good situation for them, it's fine. But on average, some of these Pyres really need to get value out of their effects to give you any value. And that's going to be reflected by the fact that they have lower HP. I think a few of these Pyres could shift. If you want, you could make the tier list look like this if you're really a big fan, or you could do this. You could do this if you like it. But I think that most of these Pyres can move up or down a tier at your discretion based on your playstyle. I don't really care for space, for example, so I don't value this Bogworm's Pyre very highly. But 70 HP, so it probably should at a minimum go here. But I refuse. I want my tier list to look balanced. But like I said, it could go either tier. Don't come after me in the comments and type me a fucking essay about why you think that Bogworm's Pyre is actually pretty good. I already said that, man. But actually do type me an essay. It's good for the analytics. I'll leave a description link for this tier list, tier maker. If you want to make one, hop in the Discord, ping me with it. Please do ping me with it. I think people are often afraid to ping me. Go in the Monster Train channel and at me with it if you want me to see it, because people are typing in there constantly and I am not always reading. So feel free to do that. I would love to yap about these. It's fun to discuss balance. I don't know how many more of these I will do or if any of them are coming anytime soon. I just kind of did this last night at 5 a.m. and went, oh, this sounds like fun. I should make a video on that. So I did. I'm having a good time with it. So sue me. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. I think I got a co-op video with Cranberry coming up tomorrow. There's going to be maybe a little hiatus on Slice and Dice as a result. Goodbye.